Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with another indie comic creator. Always love sitting down with indie comic creators. This time it was James W. Walton. James W., the writer on Twitter. He's from AGT Publishing, Gift Tomorrow Publishing. And he's got an indie comic coming out. It's a superpower sci-fi. It's ramping up to be this like epic proportion thing where two brothers find out that they have the powers to either save the universe or completely obliterate it. So pretty cool, high stakes stuff, and it looks like it sounds like it delves a lot into, morality and what to do with this kind of power and what your responsibility with it is. The book is going to be called Stagnant Waters. It's on the way. He says it's like 65-75% complete, and he's got previews and stuff coming to Kickstarter soon, so Stagnant Waters is something to check out on your, forthcoming list. Enjoy the interview. No. There it is. All right. Cool. Everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with James W. Walton. Do you want the whole James W. Walton III? I should have asked before I hit record.
It doesn't even make a difference. I just put the whole thing because I think it looks nice.
Yeah, cool. Especially for like a writer-creator name. It's great. So you have a new comic book coming out, Stagnant Waters. You want to kind of do the elevator pitch?
Yeah, so Stagnant Waters is a superpower sci-fi epic. It follows the journey of two young men as they literally discover they hold the keys to either the salvation or doom of the entire universe.
Okay, pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I don't want you to give away any important plot points, so if my question is too much of a spoiler, just tell people to read the book. But I was curious when I read that in the email that they have the powers to do one extreme or the other. Do they know, if we do this, it's good. If we do this, it's bad. Or is it just like, what do we do? They
don't, but they'll find out. And then it'll be a matter of who picks what.
Okay, cool. So going kind of back to the beginning of your creative journey, is this the first comic book you've created?
Yeah. Well, I guess now technically it's the second at this point.
Okay.
Ironically, it'll be the first I published, but the first I did was with Fugitive Poems. I'm featured in their Containment Breach 3, just an anthology series, which I believe goes to Kickstarter February. So ironically, it ends up coming out after. But okay. That's technically the first one.
The first project you did is going to be a little bit behind on the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. You kind of got your feet wet with one to go to the other.
Yeah. That actually inspired me to just say, okay, it's time to go ahead and do this thing. 'Cause I've been working on this comic for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
We had cool. I'll get to it. I'll do it. I'm not ready yet. I'm never going to be ready if we just don't do it.
Yeah. And for people listening, that's like, I think the most important advice for anyone who has any kind of creative project they want to do is like, there's no such thing as tomorrow and there's no such thing as a perfect time. Just start.
Yeah, definitely.
And also probably important to point out, and you can either agree or disagree, but your first attempt, not going to be the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah. I'm so woefully unprepared because, you don't know what you don't know.
But exactly.
Guess I'll find out soon.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you're doing it, I think, is the biggest first step. And you've probably even realized along the way, just making it yourself. And for you making it yourself, are you writer, layouts, artist, everything? Or are you a writer, met with an artist, or what's your whole process?
So I just do the writing. I was going to be the letterer. Then I realized you should probably just pay someone who knows what they're doing. And then I actually have 2-3 artists. I started with a team Diaveric. They're probably going to kill me because I might have said that wrong. But they started the book for the first 17 pages. But like I said, I've been working on this for 7 years. So scheduling, I couldn't get them back. So I hooked up with a guy, Spider Dave calls himself. It's pretty awesome. He's finishing out the last 11.
All right. Was for the art style, because you had one team and then some time passed and you got another guy, is there a big jump in the art, or was your second artist kind of trying to match the first?
Originally, I was gonna have him match the first, but then I decided I picked you because I like your art. So
Yeah.
your style is what it's going to be. They're similar enough that it's not going to be like jarring. And I
Right.
actually wrote it into the book. I changed the page and I was like, okay, this will make this make sense.
Okay, that's cool. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the artists love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually got the idea from my mom. She was telling me about some show that does something similar. She's like, you have to watch it. I'm like, I'm not going to watch it, but thanks.
Not gonna
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. And I like that you wove it into the story, because for people who maybe don't see this interview, when they're reading it, they'll be like, it won't be such a what happened here.
Right.
That's awesome. So for your 7-year creative journey, was it you had the story concept, and was it kind of a ready, fire, aim thing where you're like, I want to make a comic, let's do it. And then you realize like, oh, I might've jumped the gun a little bit. I got to pull back. And
so I guess technically really I've been working on it longer than 7 years. So I'm 35 now. I started writing this thing when I was 16. It's evolved and evolved over time. And 7 years ago, I got the idea, okay, I'm going to make a comic out of this, because originally it was going to be a book. But I was like, why am I writing a book? I love comics. Why don't I make the thing I love? You know?
Right.
But we got through the first few pages, and then I realized I don't know what I'm doing. I honestly just got scared. That's really what it is, if I'm being honest with myself. I got a whole bunch of other excuses, but it boils down to I got scared. I left it alone for a while, then life happened, and I kept making excuses.
Yeah. I think a lot of us have been there, and that's really cool for you to just come right out and say, because it is a scary endeavor to take something that's been in your head for so long and be like, now I'm going to put it in front of people and get feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, this sounds really cool to me, but maybe not to everyone else.
Right. Was there anything with the timing of like maybe the MCU or the DC cinematic universe, or any of the stuff that's like pushing comics further into the mainstream, and there's not really this separation, oh, comics are for kids or comics are for geeks or whatever. It's just kind of part of pop culture. Was any of that a sway, or were you just kind of on your own path?
It's around the time I really decided to make a comic was when Marvel was doing Lord Jesus, my brain. Secret Wars 2. And I was like, they're just recreating the entire universe right now. I have an entire universe in my head right now. I could just write a universe. If they can do it, I can do it.
Especially because it was Secret Wars 2, and you're like, so they're recreating their entire universe.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's also cool that you took inspiration from Marvel, the comic side, and not Marvel, the movie studio side, because...
Yeah. Which, my dream is to one day be able to say, have my comics been adapted into a movie? But
oh, absolutely. Yeah, get that Amazon Prime deal or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But definitely, as long as I can get a comic out there, if all I do is get this first one out, I'm happy.
That's step one for sure.
Yeah.
I actually had interviewed an animator, and I'm blanking on his name, which is horrible to bring up, but I interviewed an animator, and we were talking comics a little bit, and his advice to anyone creating a comic was make the comic the best thing it can be and get it as many hands as possible, and let animation come to you.
It sounds great.
Trying to push the animation is tough.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So anyway, back to the beginning of Stagnant Waters. When you said in earnest, like, okay, I've had this idea forever, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write it. Did you start with taking like classes on writing, or classes specifically on comic script writing, or did you just kind of wing it and figure it out as you went?
Winged it. I already had a little bit of background in screenwriting.
Okay.
So I just went on Google and was like, what does a comic script look like? Oh, it looks very similar to a screenplay. Okay, I can do this. I just started writing.
Did you have because you said it was going to be a book original, did you have a novel version first to work off of?
I had about 7 or 8 chapters written up of it, but while it was a book, it was almost completely different. The characters were the same, who they are was the same, but it was almost completely different while it was a novel. And then I just started writing, and after I wrote the first script, I was like, this is horrible. So I need to actually figure out what this world is. It's all in my head, but it's not coming out into the script. So I sat down, I literally wrote an entire Bible for this universe. It ended up being 170 pages by the time I was done.
Okay, longer than the book.
Right. Like the rules of the universe, the history of the universe, literally from the Big Bang up until the end of the first arc of the story, which
Very cool.
I changed a lot of that since then too, but it's there. I know everything about the universe. If someone says what happened 6 weeks ago in this universe, I can tell you based on today.
That's your like George R. R. Martin side.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that I think comes from reading a lot of Tolkien. I'm like, this dude, you ask Tolkien what happened in 1852 in your universe of the first age, he'll tell you what happened on this day.
Right, who was involved, what the lineage is, and
right. Okay, yeah, I can do that. That'll help me get everything out, and then when I go back to write the script, I know what I'm doing rather than just winging it, which I tend to do a lot.
Yeah,
I found doesn't work for me on script writing. For writing a novel, wing it all day and it's going to make sense because I'm going to go back and edit it anyway. And then, you have limited space on a page. So if you mess up one panel and the rest of it's off, the whole flow is gone, and now the whole comic doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and something that I was running into being on the writing side in the beginning was way too wordy. And then the artist would be like, there's no room for the art. You got to like pare this down, but you still want to get your point across. So,
yeah, I ran into that issue too. What I started doing for that, I would take my dialogue and I would plug it into Twitter and see if it fit.
Okay, that's clever.
Yeah. I was like, well, if it fits here or if it's just a little bit over, it'll fit on the page.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. You get a built-in tool.
Yeah, it helped a lot. Now, I still end up wordy because I also realized I can fit a lot more on a page than what I can fit on Twitter. So finding that balance is difficult, but
after you've done it a while, you probably fell into the swing of it. And
yeah, and then what I'll do after I've done all that, I'll let the artist go ahead and do what they're going to do, work their magic, and then look at the page and say, okay, can what I wrote here actually fit in this section? I might mock up some lettering or something, throw it on there. Okay, does it look okay?
Yeah.
It probably doesn't because I did it, but someone who knows what they're doing can make it fit.
Yeah, you're close enough, right?
Yeah.
That you're working with a letterer, do you use the lettering pass as kind of like a final draft, or because you're using a third-party letterer, do you have to like have this locked and sent to them?
I try to have it locked so that I wouldn't have to be like, hey, I'm changing this and that and this and that and that and this. So I had it locked this time around. I actually kind of got lucky because I just have been writing this same script for forever. So
you worked out all the kinks.
Yeah. There's still some things I'm looking at, like maybe I should change that, but I'm kind of happy with where it's at now. And then what he did with it, it could just be he made it look good. So
that's the whole thing. At the end of the day, it's a visual medium.
Right. So I'm like, well, it gets the point across. It says what I wanted to say. Maybe the wording could be a little bit better, but these are also people. So people don't always speak incomplete sentences.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is you don't want it to be too perfect and too formal, but you also don't want it to be kind of a mess.
Yeah. Everyone has to have their own voice. They can't all sound like me writing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You have to put a little affectation or something in there to give everybody their own unique perspectives and speech patterns and all that.
Yeah. Which
Very
is
cool.
surprisingly difficult to do, but once you get it, it's almost second nature.
Once it clicks.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
especially if you know who the characters are.
Mm.
That definitely helps. Yeah.
And since you've
For the
been
years,
with
I know who all these people are.
yeah. Along with your universe Bible, do you do like the whole traditional, like you can see in the background here, I have my color coded outline note card. Do you do that kind of thing too? Like an outline first? Do you just have your Bible and then go?
I do. So what I'll do, I'll create a grid for each page, and then I'll write in each grid what's supposed to happen on the page. Maybe not by panel, but okay, this page, Ian's gonna do a backflip. You know? So I know at least where it should be going before I start writing, so that I can keep my pacing and make sure I know, okay, this page is a page turn, and I don't want to put this big reveal on the wrong side of the page.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole thing that when I first started writing, I didn't like I knew about, but I didn't know about, if that makes any sense. Like I was aware in a comic book that you want to turn the page and have a reason to keep turning the page.
Right.
But when I was writing it, I didn't think like, okay, well, this will be in panel 7 of this page. So panel 1 of the first, like it was almost too much to wrap my head around.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another one of those things, once you catch it, you stop thinking about it really.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of the writing process.
Once you've done it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the really tough thing that as a comic reader, I never appreciated as much until I started to write as well, was like, it's like when you write a sitcom or a half-hour TV show or whatever, you need that commercial break at this point. You need one of those every other page.
Right. Right.
That's crazy. So along with your Kickstarter, do you have like reward? Have you done a Kickstarter before for other things?
I haven't. This is going to be my first one. I've been, since August, I've been studying it like I'm going to get a degree in it. So
Good, yeah.
I feel like I'm ready for it. But again, it goes back to you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I'm ready to at least run it. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but I can run one.
Far out, I think, is a very good sign, because I knew it was going to be a big undertaking, and then we launched it and then started figuring it out. And it's like, no, too late.
Yeah. There's so much to it. I'm glad that I didn't try to do it 7 years ago, because I didn't do nearly enough research. I would have just jumped into this thing and failed horribly. I would have had like 2 backers, and they would have been my mom and whoever she convinced. You know?
Right. Yeah. You got a friend you guilted into it and a parent, and you're like, that's it.
Right. Well, I might still only have 2 backers, but at least I'll know why. You know?
Well, the book sounds really cool. So as long as you're getting the Kickstarter part in hand, because Kickstarter seems very, very good for indie creators lately.
Yeah. I'm actually considering just serializing it exclusively on Kickstarter, because it just seems like the best way to go right now. At least until I'm a bigger name and can say, hey, I'm making something, and people go, oh, it's another James Walton production. Let's get it. You know?
Once you built that audience through Kickstarter, have them follow you to your own platform.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On Kickstarter, and they're making $300,000, but you can also tell people know who they are. It's not just the book. It's, I know this person creates something that I'll want to read. I might not know what this book is, but I know them. So
Yeah, I know there's some comic names out there that before the Kickstarter even launches, they have 600 people watching it. It's like, well,
Right.
there you go. You're set. You're funded in 10 minutes.
Right. You see all those funded in 10 minutes, funded in the first day.
Yeah, it's
Your
crazy.
goal was like $1 bazillion. How did you do this?
Right. So I just want to get enough so they send this thing to the printer.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah, you just don't want to be underwater with it.
Please.
Do you have like a whole tier system and all that already thought out that you want to kind of let
I
people
do.
know?
I'm still tweaking it a bit because, first time around, I don't want my tiers to suck. But I think I'm getting there. I'm actually going to finish them up today once we get off of here. And I'm probably just, whatever I come up with today, I'm just going to leave it because if I keep messing with it, I'll keep messing with it up until the day of launch.
Yeah. You got to set it in at some point.
Right.
Is there like a little preview? Because people, I'll try to get this up right before your Kickstarter. Well, I will get this up right before your Kickstarter so people are onto it. Because I guess something I learned after the fact is part of the algorithm for Kickstarters. You have a lot of people watching, you're more likely to get placed higher and higher. So,
Yeah.
Is there anything you can give up as far as tiers go, or are you like still that unsure? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Not so. Hold on, I wrote them down. Let me look at them. So I've got everything written so that I don't have to remember.
Right.
But of course, we've got the main cover and we've got a variant cover.
Okay.
Got those options. Then we're going to do posters of the covers. I've also got a poster of, I'm calling it the Glimpse of the Future poster, because it's actually a piece of art that doesn't take place for like 6 months into the story. So like I might actually change it. So tentatively issue 12, I might move that because I want it to be a little more exciting of a book. I may move that up based on some conversations with Dave that I'll have in the next couple of days. We'll figure out where we really want to go with issue 2 because he's already bored. He's like, I love it. Let's go. So, but I'm also
your artist or your editor or
my artist.
Okay, cool.
When I found him, I was like, look, when we do this, I actually want you to be involved and like this book. Because if you don't like it, then why do you want to draw it other than money? Which I understand. I want some money too. But if you like the book, I feel like we'll have a better relationship overall.
Yeah. So and he'll enjoy the drawing a lot more.
Yeah. And he ended up loving it. And he was like, okay, but are you going to do issue 2? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do issue 2. And he's like, great. Sign me up for that.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
Forever now. Yeah. We may shift some stuff around. I'm going to ask him, what do you think this should be like? Because I created it, but you have to draw it. So.
Yeah, and plus it's always good to have a second set of eyes.
Yeah. In fact, with the last 5 pages, I wrote it, and then he looked at it and he was like, okay, this is great. And I'm like, all right, but if you want to change it, do that. And then he made some changes to it. I'm like, you just made this so much better than what I saw.
Yeah. There's a reason I think why TV shows have an entire writer's room.
Right. Right. Especially with comics, you have to trust your artist, because I can write it all day, but I can't see it the way that he's going to see it, because he's got a whole different set of eyes than I do. I see, and how can I describe this with words, where he's literally drawing it out. He can see the action better than I can.
Yeah, and another thing that's cool about the art, adding the layer of like, okay, maybe your main 2 characters or the main 2 characters in the scene are doing this thing, but what's that guy in the back doing? Like a little subtle thing like that can add so much depth to the world or the story or anything.
Yeah, he's actually got a few panels where he did exactly that. Or I say, this character is doing that, but then he's got people in the background doing stuff. And like, that just made it foreshadows another situation. And I'm like, that's so much better than what I wrote.
It's so hard to wrap your head as a writer around, like, okay, the main two characters are talking about this because it's going to lead to that thing. And also there's this guy in the crowd who's watching him doing this, which is a foreshadowing this. It's like, what?
Right. Man, I'm so happy I found that guy. He's awesome.
It's cool that you're collaborating too. It's like a partnership now instead of, hey, I wrote these words, draw them.
Right. Which I feel like that's how it really always should be. If you're working with someone, if you want to just hire someone to do a job, you don't really want to be in comics. That's not really where you want to be. This is a team effort. It can't get done without the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, I kind of took you off track there. So you said you got your book, you got a variant cover, you got a poster coming of the cover and a poster coming of original artwork that foreshadows something kind of down the line.
Right. And we've also got a 3-page mini one-shot. I'll give you some backstory on a few of the characters, the children of Gaia, which they aren't featured much in the first issue. So I was like, well, let me give you this situation that they were in before that issue starts. So you can kind of get something extra. You know?
It was like an offshoot and a prequel.
Yeah. Which I think page 2 references what they're doing in that mini one shot. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
I actually had that done by a different artist though. I'm going to butcher his, I'm not even going to try to say his last name because I'm going to terrorize his last name, but Ivan. He's pretty awesome.
That's cool too, because like you wrote into your story at the art switch, having another artist do the kind of offshoot prequel book also separates it enough while still the same universe.
Right.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. It was like, also, I also did that because there's a lot of artists out there that should be getting more work than they're getting. I'm like, well, if getting my story out helps you also build your portfolio so that you can get more work, let's do it. Because Ivan is awesome. I see him in Facebook groups and, looking for an artist. And he's in every one of these things like, yeah, I'm an artist. And I'm like, all right, if you're checking everyone, let me give you some work too. So that when the next person who says, yeah, let me see what you got, you can show them this.
Got that much more in your portfolio. Yeah.
All right. And he did an amazing job. I gave him a script and he didn't do everything that I wrote, but when I looked at it, I was blown away. I was like, hey, you took what I wrote and made it better. So awesome.
For sure.
We definitely. I keep going off track. But so that we're also going to do phone backgrounds, a wallpaper, and there's a prose short story I did for another character that I might include in there just because I want to have more stuff. Because I'm like,
like stretch goals or something.
Yeah, I don't really have too much.
Whatever you get the story.
Yeah, but that's about it. Posters and the book itself are really the main things. I'm like, I'm on issue 1. I don't have too much to offer yet.
No, that's issue 2. I think that's strong. And from what I've seen in a lot of the people, because I've talked to a lot of independent comic creators now, which is great. You can overdo it and make it too complicated. So I think it's better to be like, here's some choice comic related things that all have to do with the book, and we're not getting too fancy yet. So
yeah, that was definitely when I was originally coming up with my tiers. I had like stickers, a canvas poster, a t-shirt, and something else. Bookmarks. And then when I went back and looked at it, I was like, I'm going to be spending every dollar on just creating these extra things, and then I won't be able to ship them. Or if I am able to ship them, I need to ask for like $15,000.
Yeah.
Which, this is my first Kickstarter for issue 1, no one knows who I am yet. They don't even know what this book is. Even when they read the thing, they're going to be like, I still don't know what it is. So I'm taking a chance on this. I'm not asking for $15,000 to start.
Right. You don't want your tier support to be like, all right, just sign over your house and I can send you some stuff.
I go on Twitter and I joke like I'm just gonna make one book and I'm just gonna ask for $5,000 from one person and that's it. But that's never gonna work. And I'm even looking at it now, like maybe I need to reduce what I'm asking for a bit because right now I'm looking at 6,400. Like maybe I need to reduce that and just come out of pocket on what I can because I don't want to ask for too much. I just don't want to ask for too much.
Yeah, that's a tough line. I wish I could give you better feedback on that. I personally kept mine very, very cheap, but we marketed the whole thing all wrong. And we funded enough because we did Indiegogo, where if you partially fund, you could still go through with it. We funded enough that it paid for the books, and that was it. So you don't really want my advice on crowdfunding yet. But once we're off the recording, I can give you a couple names of people to reach out to who have done very well and gave me some good tips. So, yeah.
I'm always down to learn some more.
Yeah, I got to build this little indie comic community. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. So,
very cool. It sounds like, as far as I'm concerned, you're getting everything right. So that's good. Something else that I wanted to bring up was you said that your book is what, like 75% done?
Yeah, just the last 11 pages need to be finished up. That should be done within, I just talked to him the other day, maybe a week or two. And
really?
Letter Rob Jones, he finishes pages in days. So like he did the first 17 pages in 4 days altogether. He took some breaks in between, but within a week, first 16 pages were done. So
wow, that's awesome.
11 are up. I assume probably another week that'll be done.
Yeah. That I always think that's a good thing to mention too, because I feel like, at least me personally, when I'm going to back a comic Kickstarter, I want to know, like, where is it at? Am I getting the book in 2 months or 2 years?
Right. And that was one of the things I did a lot of research on, like how much of this book should I have done before I launch. And it seems like the consensus is either most of it or all of it. So I just went with all of it. If it's already done, then once the Kickstarter is done, if it is successful, I only need to focus on getting rewards. I don't need to backtrack and say, okay, how can we finish this and this and this? Because it's already going to be enough. Even with the few rewards I'm putting out, I still have to figure out shipping, which I've been trying to learn that since August too, and I'm still confused. So it's like, yeah, I need to be able to focus on fulfillment and starting on the next thing. So just have the book done. It's one thing out of the way.
And I know you already have a ton on your plate, and this is probably the question that creatives hate to get asked, but how's issue 2 coming along?
I actually started writing it yesterday.
Okay.
I had one already written, but I went back and I looked at the thumbnails that he sent me for the last 11 pages. I was like, okay, the way this is going, I can actually change a lot of issue 2 to make issue 2 a little bit more exciting than it was, which I feel like it needs to be a little more exciting. I can bog things down with exposition and getting to know characters. You don't always need to get to know everybody every page. You can learn
some Bible in there.
Yeah, which actually was an issue I had with issue 1 too. Just spending too much time explaining who people are through their dialogue, which don't need to do that. See them do something later and learn who they are as you're reading.
That's good. I mean, you're learning it quick.
Yeah, trying to anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, we thought we were super clever and we wrote like 19 issues when we were drawing 1 and 2, but those change a little bit and it ripples out. And by the time you get to like issue 6, it's like none of this is valid anymore.
Right. It's a completely different story.
Yeah.
Which happened in issue 1.
Yeah, exactly. So you're already feeling the ripple.
Yeah. Before it even was finished being drawn.
Well, it's awesome that you've been doing it for so long because the characters are real to you, so you can write their voices and stuff like that. And it's just awesome that you went ahead and made the jump and you realize that there is no perfect time. I still think that's probably the best piece of advice.
Yeah, definitely. Even down to when should I launch this Kickstarter? I saw there was a bunch of resources I could have taken to say this is the best time and this is the best time. I was like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the algorithm says is the best time. It's whatever works for me. And what works for me is to get this out as soon as possible, which is going to be the first of the year. And I only picked the first of the year because I needed a little bit more time to make sure that I was ready. And,
you also want to have the time to be nurturing the Kickstarter, but you also need people to be at their computers with eyes on. So if you released it 3 days before Christmas and everyone's traveling for the holidays and doing this and that, and you got New Year's a week later, it's like people will be like, oh, you did a 2-week Kickstarter, you're on day 11, and I just saw it.
Right. Which ironically I was going to do December 1st. That wasn't going to work. I'm worried now I don't have enough followers across all my platforms yet, which I probably don't, but
well, hopefully this will grow some too.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I mean, we can put, do you have or maybe not yet. Oh, we could talk about that after, actually. I was going to ask for like the Kickstarter landing page thing.
Oh, yeah, it's not up just yet. It'll be up in, what's today? 23rd. So it'll be up in maybe 8 to 10 days or so. I want to have it up before.
Yeah. A few weeks. We can definitely link to that. But do you want to give your socials and all that, the stuff that people can go to right now?
So my Twitter is at James W. the Writer. I've also got at AGT Publishing. I don't know if that's LLC at the end of that. Let me check.
Make sure you get the right one.
Yeah. Let's see. It is not showing me there. Oh, no, I didn't put the LLC at the end of that. So just AGT Publishing. So that's the 2 on Twitter. And then Facebook, I don't know how to find that page because that one is brand spanking new. But you can find it under Gift Tomorrow Publishing. Search a Gift Tomorrow Publishing, you'll find me.
Very cool. Yeah, well, James, I appreciate you coming on and talking comics and creating comics. I wish you the best of luck with the Kickstarter and definitely keep our name because when, issue 2 is rolling around, maybe we can do like a catch up on how all this went so far and then jump on the next one.
Yeah, definitely. And now, hopefully, if everything goes well, I'll be jumping right into issue 2 like 2 months after. So,
don't wait too long.
Yeah, I really want to get down to launching every month so I can really, that's how comics come out once a month.
Yeah. That is tough. Because it's not just your control. There's a lot of outside factors that bump things off the road. Very cool, though. And once again, I appreciate it and wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
No problem. Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank James one more time for taking time out of his busy schedule to come on and talk to me about creating comics, writing comics, the idea behind Stagnant Waters, his thoughts on getting a Kickstarter going, because that's a beast in itself. I'm always interested in hear how other people tackle it. I had a really good time talking to this guy. I think his book sounds really cool, and I hope that he follows through and we can see the end of the epic, because whenever these huge projects are put in front of me, I get really interested. I want to see them through to the end, and it sounds like he's going to. He sounds really passionate about it, so that's awesome. Make sure you look for Stagnant Waters. Check out James W. the Writer on Twitter, and also, please make sure you like and subscribe, do the bell, do all the things. We got a lot more interviews, new movie coverage, screeners, all that stuff ramping back up. You're not going to want to miss out. Speaking about want to miss out, make sure you listen to So Was Her Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. So we love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments. All of our accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have our own independent comedy comic series out. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice of life comedy, as I just mentioned, kind of written like a sitcom, but done in the style of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and love. We got a bunch of issues available now, socialstudiescomic.com and on Comixology, working on getting them added to Global Comics. So you can find us. We're out there. More issues on the way. We're constantly writing, drawing, coloring, producing. We're not stopping. Tons of content. socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.